Welcome, everybody, to Pittman and Friends Podcast, and I'm here with, I can say, a really good friend, a really good person, somebody you're going to want to hear from, our Speaker of the House of Delegates of Maryland, Joseline Peña-Melnyk. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, my friend. It's really a blessing to be with you.
Yeah. Well, I will say that I don't know how you squeeze so many things into a day, but I have seen a lot of you since you became speaker, and even since the end of session. It seems like you're everywhere.
I am 7 days a week. I'm working. Yeah. I'm out 7 days a week everywhere. Last weekend, we were in Hagerstown. This coming weekend, we're in Chestertown.
Wow.
I said when I became speaker that I was going to travel like you did throughout the whole state, and I'm doing it, and I am supporting my members. I'm doing wraparound sessions, I am everywhere 7 days a week, from morning to very late in the evening.
Do you like that?
I don't like it. I do want to be home a little more, but I have to meet the moment, and it's important. Yeah. And I am here in a very humble way for a reason, and I am going to give this my absolute best.
Well, thank you. Thank you for stepping up. Thank you for your service.
Thank
you for listening to everybody. Thank you for, and I mean that about listening to everybody. I will say, one of the things that I was really impressed that you did, and before I even say that, I just want to let people know that Joseline Peña-Melnyk actually represents a part of Arundel County.
I do.
Yeah,
very
part
proud
of Prince George's,
it.
Western part of the county.
And I take it very seriously.
Yeah, and you've always showed up as part of the delegation.
I do.
Yeah. But you did. You said you were very serious when you came in, and you said that you wanted to represent everybody, and you talked a lot about civility and kindness, and then you created a rural caucus of all things. And there aren't many. You're a Democrat, correct?
That's right, 100%.
Be a Democrat, but the rural caucus is, represented by a lot of Republicans. Why'd you do that, and how's that working?
I have been thinking a lot, like everyone else, from the moment I wake up. And I thank God for that, about the way the current state of affairs in our country, what's happening at the federal level, the lack of humanity, the lack of empathy, the lack of civility. And I decided it was intentional that we are going to be civil in Annapolis, and that I was going to give respect and demand respect. And it's an intentional act every single day, daily, to do that. And I find that when you give respect, you get respect. And I know that, the Republicans in our body, they represent their districts. They don't have the values I have, but the people they represent deserve to have a voice in Annapolis, and they deserve respect.
To be represented, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I give them that respect. And it's important to me to do that.
Amen.
Doesn't mean we're not going to do our business and pass the bills that we know are important for Marylanders. But it means that I am going to listen to what you have to say. And at the end of the day, will you take a vote up or down?
Let's jump to the end of session before we get to the beginning of session, all the things that you did during session and all the lessons you learned. I think I want to make sure we cover a lot of those things. But you're talking about civility. There were a lot of headlines that came out at the very end that in the last few minutes of session, there was less of it. What happened there? So
for 89 days, 23 hours, 55 minutes, I was civil. What happened was that we had a very important bill. It was the Maryland Voting Rights Act of 2026, which is an important bill that protects Black and brown communities against discrimination when you are doing redistricting, right? When you're drawing maps at the local level.
And this was before the Supreme Court made the decision to gut the Voting Rights Act.
That's correct.
Just recently.
And we knew that.
But you knew that it might happen.
We knew that it might happen, and that we needed to put something in place to protect these communities. And on Saturday before Sine Die, which is Monday, and Steuart, as you know, we are required constitutionally to adjourn by midnight on Monday.
Right.
That Saturday, I made a decision to bring the House in. We were in from 10 in the morning until midnight, almost midnight. The Senate was not in. We came in. And that day, I allow the Maryland Voting Rights Act of 2026 and the Trust Act to be debated on the floor. I called on every single individual.
And the Trust Act, for people who are listening, had to do with how our law enforcement, our detention centers in particular, handle immigrants and deal with ICE.
That's
right?
correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was very flexible on who can ask a question. And I allowed them all. Very generous. Then we send the bill to the Senate. The bill did not reach us until 11:55 p.m. And that's because I was not aware that the Senate was having their own struggle with one of the senators who got up on every bill and was trying to amend every bill because you try to delay things as the other party so you don't get to vote on the bills that are pending because you have the clock working against you.
To basically shut down the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when it came at 11:55, I made the decision of calling on one of the Republican senators to ask a question about the bill.
An opponent, okay.
And then after that, I decided that we were going to go ahead and vote on the bill. The rules say that I may call on you, not shall. But in all fairness, and for the record, to be clear, on Saturday they asked all the questions they wanted to ask, and it was the same bill.
Yeah.
So I was not going to allow that bill to die on my watch, especially given the fact that the Supreme Court was about to rule, which it did 3 weeks later.
So that seems pretty normal, that the clock is ticking, you have to get a vote. Why were people upset?
Oh, they were upset because they said that they were entitled to be called, each and every one of them. 39 of them.
You can just sort of filibuster.
Oh, my God, absolutely, and kill the bill.
Okay.
And they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
But they cannot say that they did not have an opportunity to discuss that bill. They did.
Yeah.
So I am kind. I am fair. I'm equitable. But when it means...
But you have a gavel.
I have the gavel. And I'm going to use it without abusing it.
All right.
And especially when I gave them Saturday to go at it.
Well, I'm so glad
freely.
that you did, given what the Supreme Court then followed up and did.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to protect our black and brown communities that have not had representation for so long.
That's right.
From having it taken away.
Yeah, especially when you look at other states, especially in the South, and they're getting rid of every single black member.
Yeah.
They're being very intentional about it.
It's like we've turned the clock back, way, way back. Okay, so thank you for that. Let's talk about some of the things that, when you came into session, you were elected just weeks before session opened, right?
December 16th.
December 16th, right?
I remember the day.
Yeah. And congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I remember you had some Republicans stand up during that. I guess it was the second vote, or one of them, Nick Kipke from Arundel County.
I had the...
Seconded was one of the seconds?
It was one of the people that second my motion was Delegate Hutchinson from the Eastern Shore.
The first time? Okay.
The first time. Yes.
A Republican. And then the second time,
it was Nick
Kipke made a very nice speech about how you two had worked together and he respected you.
I have very good relationships with the Republicans.
Yeah. Good. So just tell us what you wanted to accomplish going into this session. Highs and lows, lessons learned.
That's a loaded question.
Yeah.
So look, going into the session, I wanted to meet the moment, Steuart. We are living through unprecedented times where when you get up in the morning, Steuart, I feel overwhelmed and depressed. When I look at the news, you feel like you're suffocating. When you look at the fact that there's no respect for the Constitution, there's no respect for all three branches of government, no division, no separation. When it's okay to stop someone, racial profile someone, it's okay to do that. When our civil rights are disappearing, it breaks your heart.
Yeah. Do you feel like, as an immigrant to this country, that you value the the Constitution even more.
Absolutely, because you have rights here.
Yeah.
Where we come from, many countries, we don't have that. People lose their lives, to exercise their right to vote or to speak. Many countries. And here we have that. And that is something that we cannot give up.
Where you were born?
I'm from Dominican Republic.
Island girl.
Island girl. And it's a democracy, right? It's not like it is in other countries in Latin America, like, El Salvador and others, right? They have had that history.
Yeah.
I know what that's like.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that I value being here and being part of this society, being an American as well. And we're going backwards. So we came in during the session to deal immediately with redistricting, right? And the House met the moment. We passed redistricting. The Senate did not move it. Then we went ahead and decided to take on...
And that, I'll just remind people, was in a response to what was happening in other jurisdictions. I mean, Democrats have historically always been against gerrymandering and voted in favor of bills nationally to end it nationally so that nonpartisan groups could do the districts. But then when the future of our country and Congress as being the majority depends on, and one side has said we are going to require redistricting and create a whole bunch of red districts, then Democrats around the country said, okay, where can we do this? And one of the locations in Maryland would be District 1. And I know that Democrats in District 1 want redistricting because they want to, they want to be represented by somebody a little bit more reasonable than Andy Harrison. And the other side, of course, says the opposite. But.
And that is correct. And if you notice the way it was drafted, it was a compromise. And I decided to do that, where it said we're only going to do this until the next census. Because I myself, and I'm Wrecker, I think twice, I actually co-sponsor a Republican bill to create a commission.
A nonpartisan,
absolutely. So it was just until the next census.
Yeah, we have to get through this moment.
But because everyone else was doing it, and because we have to save our democracy, we have to have some balance. It was the right thing to do. So we passed it, and it was a compromise, and the voters would get to vote on that if had it passed, and the Senate did not pass it. Then I decided, well, let's send something else to the Senate. Let's send some language, constitutional language, to fix the Battaglia decision. And we sent that to the Senate. And again, the Senate did not pass it. So we in the House met the moment. My caucus wanted that. Then we went on and we took on the affordability issue, right? The people are getting these bills that are so high that they cannot afford their utility bills. So we passed a utility relief bill. And I was very clear, Steuart, that this was not going to be a ceremonial bill. It was going to be a bill of substance. And it's a bill that has short-term benefits, midterm and long-term. And people are going to get at least, but a lot more than that, $150 off their bills. But then we also put in language that says that data centers must pay for their energy. And that's a great thing to do because we are subsidizing
and create it,
Pennsylvania and Virginia as well. And we have a lot of other provisions in the bill.
When I read about that bill, I mostly read, when you read the Capital Gazette and the Baltimore Sun, you read sort of a not always a very balanced approach. I mean, it has clearly been taken over by Sinclair Broadcasting.
Absolutely.
We know where they're coming. They're
very biased.
They're very, very biased and against so many of the leadership in Maryland. But on that bill in particular, they just kept saying it was a bad bill because it was only $200 savings. Well, $200 is actually all people are getting in food stamps for a month now. I mean, there are people less than that even. And so that is real money to some people. It doesn't sound like real money to everybody. But more importantly, the bill really did, fortunately, do things to allow us to increase the supply of energy, the big picture things. And on the data centers, it finally addressed the issue of, where's the power going to come from? So congratulations on the bill.
Thank you.
I was disappointed to see that the focus was on the dollar figure.
Because you want to distort things. That's the problem with today. Today, with social media and with fake news, people make things up. They do not say the truth. It's easy to lie. It is easy to distort things. And that's why we must as humans, we must look for the news, look at a reliable source, a respectable source. For example, the bill, it pauses speculative forecasting, right? Where utilities set rates using anticipated rather than actual cost. And that is really important. They didn't talk about that, right? They didn't talk about the fact that it bans utilities from charging ratepayers for excessive employee compensations. They didn't talk about that either, right? They didn't talk about the fact that it shields households from paying to extend power lines far from where they live. They didn't talk about that because it's not convenient to talk about that.
So was it a bipartisan vote?
This bill, I think that we got a couple of people that voted for it.
Because I can't imagine voting against all that.
Yeah,
it's
some
like,
of
I'm
them
going to take
did.
that $200 out of your pocket instead of put it in.
Yeah.
But,
but it's a good bill. I am very proud of it. And then from that, we went on to immigration bills. Right? To be able to give our brothers and sisters protection. As an immigrant, we come here, Steuart, because we want a better life. Most immigrants, Steuart, don't even get a traffic ticket. They're decent human beings. They work really hard.
Well, the statistics from the Department of Justice, they took down the website that showed this, but that immigrants are less likely to commit crimes.
That's right.
Period.
Yes.
And it just flies in the face of what we're being told. But it's a fact based on statistics. And it's totally understandable because immigrants are more likely to be in the workforce. Immigrants are more likely to work multiple jobs.
That's right.
And you don't have time to go get in trouble when that's happening. And then immigrants know that if they do get convicted of a crime, they're likely to be deported.
That's right.
So...
And they're decent human beings. And, one of the bills we put in is one that bans 287G programs, which you did right when you came in, which is why I love you and have so much respect for you. Because it's not always easy to do the right thing. And you got a lot of, for doing it.
Right.
And I have so much respect when you stand for something and you have your values and they're solid. And what this bill does is that it says that we will not allow the 287G contracts, which for people that are listening, 287G is a program where the federal government deputizes local law enforcement to enforce immigration laws.
In detention centers, and in some cases, police.
That's right.
We had it in the detention center here. And it was a bad deal for the county budget.
That's right.
They were doing ICE's work on our dime. We were sending them for training by ICE down in South Carolina, and they were doing it on our dime, and so we ended that.
But it also creates distrust in the community. You're supposed to trust your law enforcement officers, right? How can you do that when now they're enforcing immigration laws and you don't trust them? It's not the right thing to do. So we passed that.
Don't we want people who commit crimes to go through our criminal justice commission and serve time?
That's right.
Deporting
Before
people rather
That's right.
That means they'll come back and do it again.
That's right.
No, punish people for their crimes.
That's right.
Why are people not for that? I don't get it. Anyway.
And let's make this clear, Steuart. It's not that by us Democrats supporting those types of bill that we do not support the police. That's BS.
Police don't want to be doing that work.
They don't want to do that work. And it doesn't also mean that when you support those bills that you want people that commit these heinous crimes to be on our street.
No, we want them.
If you commit a crime, I want you to do the time. As a former prosecutor, okay, I want you to do the time.
That was your job.
But again, we twist things. And the way things are reported. And social media, people get away with writing stuff that they wouldn't tell you in your face. But yet they'll write about it.
Well, thank you for passing that. And then the Trust Act was the follow-up that closed some loopholes, right?
That's right.
Especially when there were sheriffs who said, we're not going to implement this and we can't. So you fixed that, right?
Oh, we fixed that with a budget. And also the bill that says that you cannot wear a mask as a law enforcement agent was also very good, and we passed that as well. Yeah,
people are terrified to have these masked people with guns that are unmarked. We had to actually change for the uniforms for the the vests that our officers wear that just said police. Now they say Anne Arundel Police because ICE showed up saying police. And
that's wonderful.
People thought that the ICE officers were police officers, and our police don't want people to confuse the two because our police officers don't do the stuff ICE does. They don't run people over in cars and shoot them.
That's right. And I as a House leader, I really felt, and so did my members, my caucus. And again, I'm a very inclusive leader in a very humble way. I met with my caucus and we discussed things, right, and make sure that people were comfortable, and they were. We really feel that we have to do everything possible to protect our democracy. And yes, we did a lot regarding affordability, for relief for utility bills. We passed bills that make our premiums more affordable. Maryland has one of the lowest premium rates in the nation as well. We done a lot on to make sure that people have access to health care. We put money for people that are facing eviction in our budget. We put money to help the 687,000 people that are receiving SNAP because the federal government cut it. Our budget reflected our values. But we did all of that.
Yeah, and not just this year. I remember last year you passed a prescription drug affordability bill that created the board to set limits for cost for people.
Not limits, but what Maryland wants to pay to be able to negotiate.
Right. So for state and local government the first year, but then the second year you expanded. Last year you expanded it, right? And so the board has just identified some drugs that were being gouged.
That's right.
And so first it'll apply to state and local and save a lot of money. Then it'll apply to everybody eventually.
That's correct.
And it's one of the most important. It's one of the things that I am so appreciative that you all did, and you were the leader on that. Yeah,
that was my bill,
so thank you.
And Vice Chair Collison also has worked very hard on that.
Yeah. And I've always believed that government should be judged on the health and the wellness of its residents.
That's right.
And public health is the most important lens through which we can look at all policy. So, and
Very
I know
true.
That's where you come from.
Very true, and that's my background. And I feel especially and I hate to go back to the federal government with the decisions that are being made at the federal government regarding vaccine and everything else, that it's the states that are going to lead. And we are blessed to live in Maryland, where Maryland is considered a leader when it comes to many issues, but particularly health care.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk budget.
Yes.
Because I know that is one of the most important things that the state has to do. You have to balance a budget. And I'll tell you what my reaction was to this year definitely, last year somewhat as well, is the press is saying it's a crisis, it's a deficit, and it's a disaster, and they want to point fingers and blame somebody. No, it's a projection that we need to adjust revenues or spending, one or the other or both, to be able to make it balance, and that's what you do.
We're required by the Constitution to adjourn with a balanced budget.
And you managed it this year early and with no drama. How'd you pull that off?
Well, I found out that years ago there was a fiscal group that was actually, the members were the Senate President and the Budget Committee chairs and DLS and in the House as well.
Yeah.
So I asked, can we create it? And Senate
it was in law, but it hadn't been implemented.
And Senate President Ferguson, who I have a good relationship with, went ahead and said yes. And we started meeting every week and every afternoon on Thursdays. And we brought the chairs for the particular committees when we were discussing a certain topic, and we negotiated early.
And
it
did you
just
have the
made a
governor's
big
team
difference.
there as well?
We talked to the governor as well. The governor, we brought in the governor.
The governor's
right,
budget.
The governor's budget. But we stay in touch closely with Jake Weissman, the secretary.
Right.
Yeah, so that made a difference.
Yeah.
It really did.
I mean, a budget always has things some people don't like, especially a budget in a tough year where you have to make some cuts or not do some increases. I think a lot of what people call cuts are we were projecting to increase something and didn't increase it as much as we were planning to. But thank you for that too. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I always feel as though people don't run on fiscal responsibility enough, but it is ultimately one of the things the voters care about most. They want to know that their money is being managed well and they're getting a return on their investment, which is the programs. But again, the story isn't told the way in a balanced way. So
No,
it's
we
often
were
trying to destroy somebody.
Thank you. We were really intentional about the budget, making sure that we didn't raise any taxes. We did not. We made cuts. It made tough cuts even to the disability budget, right? The disability budget, it's a budget that services 19,000 people, and it's a budget that 5 years ago was a little over $1.something billion. And today it's over $3 billion. And we needed to make some adjustments to it. It was tough because we do care. I know I have been a real just strong advocate for the disability community, but we needed to make some adjustments. When you talk about being responsible for the dollar, right, and being a good steward of our money and taxpayers' money, we actually passed a package of 5 bills this session that deal with accountability. As you know, a lot of the agencies have audits, and those reports come back with some deficiencies. And we passed these bills that would address those deficiencies and put things in place to make sure that we're on top of that as well. So we were pretty conscientious.
So can I ask you, when you're talking about these bills and all these things, your role as a speaker is a little bit different, maybe a lot different than when you were committee chair.
That's correct.
And a delegate.
It's broader. Represent 100, and there's 141 of us.
Some people accuse the Maryland General Assembly, the Senate, and the House of being run top down. And, they're used to, Mike Miller and folks who were there a long time, and they question how much voice the public has and how much voice some of the individual delegates have. Are you really making all the decisions, or how does that work?
No, this is collective effort. And I chose 8 amazing chairs. We have 7 standing committees and 1 rules committee. And the 7 standing committees, and I created one additional one because we have not created, the last time we created a committee was 25 years ago. And I've been here for 20 years, so I have been observing and made some changes and implemented some new things. What were you looking
for when you selected those people? The characteristics?
I actually did not just select you because you supported me and voted for me. There are people that didn't vote for me that stay with their chairmanship. I was looking for people that were going to be, in all honesty, hard worker, kind people, people that will bring people together, people that were not going to be top down, and we're going to listen.
You know what? I knew you were going to say something like that.
Yeah, and I mean that.
Because I know you do. And it's people have trouble believing that could be true. They think that it's all about power and that you must be trying to consolidate your power and that everybody in public life is just trying to create power for themselves. And I know you well enough,
opposite.
Having talked to you from even before I was a candidate and getting advice for you when I was a candidate, that if I were trying to convince you that I should be a chair, I know that I would have to convince you that I was in it for the people and I had good ideas and I would listen to everybody.
That's right. And that's what I ask. That's my only request.
Yeah.
And the people that I selected are they have those attributes, and I have a lot of respect for them.
Yeah.
And they are amazing people. And I chose people that were overlooked and who have never been given some of them an opportunity. I chose more women as well. Out of the 6 committees that we had, there were only 2 of us that were women chairs. Now you have 6 out of the 8 that are women.
Yeah.
And
a couple of them from Arundel that were new. Yes. Sandy Bartlett, Judiciary, Heather Bagnall,
That's
Health.
Correct.
Yeah.
And there, for example, Sandy Bartlett, that is the Judiciary Committee, where they set all the laws for criminal justice in our state. That committee, in 190-something years, Stewart, has never had a woman as a chair or a black individual.
Really? Okay.
70% of the people incarcerated in the state of Maryland are African American. And you don't have someone leading that committee that is from that community.
Well, and I know Sandy Bartlett, and
she's amazing.
You picked the right person, regardless
she is.
of yeah.
And look, I love
lawyer.
the former chair. He's my I chose him as my speaker pro tem.
Yep.
He's amazing, and I have so much respect. And he was a great chair. But I wanted to give other people opportunities, and I explained that to him and others. It's not anything, it's not personal. I just want others to grow and have opportunities because I am where I am because I was given an opportunity, and I don't take that for granted.
So as we're looking to next year, anything you want to say about next session? We've got an election between now and then, so of course you'll have some different faces.
So we do have an election on June 23rd, as you know, a primary. Then we have to come together and come together as a party and work hard for November. But looking at next year's budget, I know it's going to be tough. It's tough for many reasons. You know, Maryland is a state that is the state that is the most impacted of all 50 states because we're so close to the federal government.
Right.
But
federal
also
cuts,
because the federal cuts, but also there's a lot of people that work for the federal government that live in Maryland. More than 25,000 federal workers that reside in Maryland have lost their jobs. In October alone, Stewart, 10,300 people, federal workers lost their jobs. That means that we don't have that revenue, right? That we have to provide services for them as well, which we have done. So we have a lot of challenges.
I feel it all at the county level too.
Yes.
Yeah, same budget
and we
challenges.
have the blueprint that we have to, it is funded for this year, but it's not funded for next year, and we're very committed to education. I'm the poster child of why an education is important, right?
As well. Investment we can have in our future.
So we're going to start meeting in June. I asked for a group between the Senate and the governor and myself to come together starting in July to discuss the budget. Because I don't want to do it in
summer
December.
Vacation, right?
No summer. I have not had a day off, but this is so important. It's really important to be ready and to do it in a way that it's an intelligent way to do it, that it's inclusive, and that we look at all the options. And we have to look at health, education, transportation, right? All the different funding formulas we have, what's working, what's not working. And we have to come together and do it early, not a last minute
thing. I've got a bunch of things here that I haven't gotten to, and we're going to have to do this again sometime. We could go on for an hour.
Love to do that.
I know you have to get somewhere. We try to end at about 30 minutes. We're already over. Why don't you have the last word? But, before I even say that, is just thank you, because you are an extraordinary combination of toughness and kindness.
Thank you.
And those two things together are incredibly powerful. So keep on doing what you're doing as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you for the support and for always being so kind. And that is something that we lack today. It's just kindness and empathy. And you have that.
Thank you.
You have that to share, a lot of it. And I thank you.
But you get the last word.
Está escuchando a Pittman y sus amigos. Si a usted le gusta lo que oyó, por favor, comparta. Y dígale a un amigo. Y nos vemos en el próximo episodio. Gracias.
Muchas gracias.
De nada.